to talk about it. See, I ran across a term, a legal term, for when someone is aggravating you or infringing upon your rights. And the term is called cease and desist. Somebody say cease and desist. We going to learn today the principle of cease and desist. Because the enemy can only pursue you until you send him a cease and desist. It's a legally enforceable right for somebody to stop an activity. So when he's creeping up on me, I need to have him to cease and desist. And we're going to watch the greatest lawyer of them all, the greatest orator of them all, the greatest preacher of all. We're going to see him do it. And if we can see him do it, we can get the principle. If we can get the principle, we can do the practice. So turn with me this morning. We're going to flip around, but first we're going to run down on the Synoptic Gospels to Matthew chapter 4. Be reading the New King James Version, verses 1 through 11. Cease and desist. Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11. Man, it's so good when you're in a ministry where everybody in the same vein. Same blood, same vein, different vessel. Same blood, same vein. Oh my God, y'all gonna get that when you get home. Same blood, same vein. Same blood that did it for me, same blood flowing through me, same blood saved me, same. Matthew chapter 4. I'm gonna hold on to this podium today so I won't get excited too early. Because it's nothing like I see my children when they learn a new thing and they got to come in and show you what they found. They got to give you the answers to the test that they found, the new principles and practices that they have. And I got something I want to drop off this morning. Toolkit, something for your toolkit, principle and practice. Cease and desist. Matthew chapter 4, verse 1, and it reads, Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, afterward he was hungry. Now when the tempter came to him, now when the tempter come to us, now when the tempter came to him, he said, When the tempter came, he said, If you are the Son of God, command these stones become bread. But he answered. Well, the tempter said, and then God answered. Jesus answered and said. And every it said is followed by it is written. And said it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. So that means I can live off that. I can live off every word. I got to get through this so I can. It's just so good. But every man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Then the devil took him up to the holy city. Tell him he had it again. Set him on the pinnacle of the temple and said to him, If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down. For it is written, he shall give his angels charge over you, and in their hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. And Jesus said to him, and it's followed by another, it is written again. It is written again, you shall not tempt the Lord your God. Again, the devil took him up. He's still at it, ain't he? In our lives, he's still at it. In our marriages, in our minds, in our hearts, in our circumstances, situations, he's still at it. And again, the devil took him up on an exceedingly high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said to him, all these things I will give you if you fall down and worship me. Then Jesus said. Then Jesus said to him. Then Jesus used his power. Then Jesus used his authority. He used his legal right of what is written in the law, which you must follow. He said, away with you, Satan, for it is written that you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only you shall serve. Then guess what? Then the devil left him. Then the devil left him. The tempter said, and God said, it's written. The tempter said again, and God said, it's written again. The tempter said again, and God said, away from me, because it is written. And it said, then the devil left him. And behold, the angels came and ministered to him. You may be seated. Cease and desist. Hey. Oh. He gave the enemy one time to tempt him with lust of the flesh. Cease and desist. One time for lust of the eye, and he put him on cease and desist. He gave him one time to tempt him with the pride of life, and he says, you got to cease and desist. See, cease and desist is denoting a legally enforceable order from a government agency. For unto us a child is born, and the government shall rest on his. A enforceable order from a government, and that unto us a son was born in the government agency, directing someone to stop engaging in a particular activity. And most of the time, a cease and desist comes after you've been aggravated a little too long. After the enemy been talking a little too much. After he been running a little too rampant. After he been in your ear a little too long. Most cease and desist letters are time bound. And since you didn't voluntarily stop, now I got to enforce my legal right to cause you to stop a particular activity. Tell your neighbor, cease and desist. And see, the thing about the cease and desist letter is you have to be specific in the language that you use. Because the language that you use has to have legal backing. Ooh, let me slow down. You can't just write, hey, leave me alone because I said so. You have to be particular about your language that's in your cease and desist in order for it to be legally binding. Every time the enemy said something to Jesus, he said, it is written. It's the law. It's legally forcible. You have to, I have the legal right to make you stop if you don't do it on your own. Jesus never said something that wasn't written. Cease and desist doesn't work unless it's got legal backing. But how many know we hold the legal backing? So if we, I know future Dr. Collins has a lot of papers to write. And a lot of times when you use something that belongs to somebody else, you have to cite your source. Whew. So Jesus wasn't just saying, man shall not live by bread alone. He said, it is written. He didn't just say that you're going to worship and serve me. He said, it's written. The law says you got to. The word says you got to. I got legal backing on what I'm telling you, so I need you to cease and desist. And what this shows me is sometimes you can You can speak to the enemy in your own strength, in your own will, in your own word, but you don't have the legal backing. If it's not written, it's not legally backed. That's why you got to use his word. That's why the language in your letter got to come from the law. That's the only way you got legal backing. Y'all not hearing me. When Elijah called fire down, he had legal. No, your language. Your language has to be specific. Your language has to be particular. Your language has to be legally backed. And see, let me tell you why it's so important that you use your words. Tell your neighbor, use your words. Because see, your power is in your words if his words are your words. His word in your mouth yields the legal backing for you to speak. Use your words, use your authority. See, your power lies in your words if his words are your words. If his words are your words. When Trey John read Jeremiah, it said that the Lord, he said he reached out and he touched his mouth and he said, I put my what? In your what? Legal backing. Why you think he said, don't be afraid of their faces? You got legal backing now. Y'all go get that when you get home. As long as when the Lord touch your mouth, when the Lord change your language, when he put his words in your mouth, that's your legal backing. Away from me, Satan. Away from me, Satan. And see, the only reason, see, Satan understood the authority that was the legal backing of when Jesus was speaking. Let me prove it to you. 1 John 4, Dickie Bell. Let's just go with 5 and 6. Oh, my God. You mean to tell me that the enemy can hear Jesus' word coming out my mouth and know he got to respond to what's coming out of my mouth? Watch this. I'm going to prove it. I ain't making this up because it's in the text. I need my legal backing to support what I'm trying to tell you. It says, verse 5 says, they are of the world, therefore they speak as of the world, and the world hears them. Verse 6, watch this. We are of God. That's what it say, right? He who knows God hears us. In Matthew 4, did the enemy know who he was talking to? We are of God, so he who knows God can what? Hear us. When his word coming out our, watch this, dig a bell, Acts 19. You don't even have to go there. I'm going to give it to you. Acts 19, when we're talking about the sons of Sceva, there was a spirit that they were dealing with, Bishop. The weapons of our warfare are not. It was a spirit he was dealing with. And when they were trying to talk to the spirit, they said, Jesus what? That means he hear me. He who hears, he who knows God hears us. The Spirit said, Jesus, I know. That means when Jesus speaks, I can hear who. I can hear when you speaking what's legally backed. I know that the word of the Lord means business. I know that the word of the Lord can back me up. I know that the word of the Lord, because Jesus, I know. And he know Paul, because Paul spoke legally back words. He who knows God hears us. And the Spirit itself said, Jesus, I know. So that means when I speak, Bishop, I got the authority to cease and desist what he got going on. He said, see, I know Jesus. Jesus, I know he mean business. I know he can stop me, block me, put me in my place and break a stronghold, because Jesus, I know. And that sound coming out your mouth is legally backed. So I know when you say what he say, I got to. Because you legally back now. Somebody got to get that. When I speak this, I'm legally backed. Ooh, all right, tell somebody that's the principle. I'm going to work this. I'm legally backed. That's the principle. God said he put his words in my mouth so I can speak with the same authority. I can speak with the same power. Said that's the principle. Now we're going to go to the practice. Because principle is no good without practice. Deacon Bill, if you'll put up for me, Job 38. Oh, bless your name, Jesus. Cease and desist, cease and desist, cease and desist. Job 38, we're reading verse 9 through 11. And what we have here is we know Bishop preached about the F8 tornado that had hit Job's life. And Job was a righteous man. Job was blameless before the Lord. Job had a hedge that he walked around with. Job was legally backed, and then Job got pursued by the enemy at the permission of the Lord. And so Job, he starts to get discouraged and get a little attitude before he got to the end where he says, now I've heard of you with my ears, and now I see you with my eyes. So the Lord had to stop by Job's house and have a conversation with Job about who he is. The title on Job 38 is when God is telling Job about his omnipotence or the power that I have. And he was asking Job stuff like, where were you when I divided the light from the darkness? Since you know so much, where were you when I divided the waters upon the... Where were you when I separated the firmament and I numbered the stars in the sky and I caused the light and the darkness to be separated? Job, I'm the man. Job thought that he could tell God a few things, so God had to say, let me tell you who I am. And what he's referring to when he's talking about this is the creation. And what he's talking about to Job is if you go back to Genesis and the creation, God created things to function a certain way. Can we all agree on that? So anytime I get lost in knowing the function of something, I can go back to where it all started. So God was reminding Job where it all started and who started it all. And he was asking Job some questions like, where were you? He said, in 38, we roll up on verse 9. He said, like, where were you when I made the clouds its garment? And the thick darkness its swaddling band. A band restricts. Whew. A band limits progression. It may stretch, but at a certain point, it's got to snap back to. He said, where were you when I made the clouds his garment? When I put something on the clouds, Job, where were you? And when I made a swaddling band for the darkness. So people that think weeping endure longer than a night weren't there when. If you think trouble can last always, where were you when I made a band for the darkness? When I fixed my limit for it. And I set bars and doors on it. Y'all not with me? We're still talking about the darkness. God is telling the people of God what he did in reference to the darkness. I gave it a limit. The prince of darkness, I gave it. Weeping may endure for a night, but weeping I put a. Where were you when I fixed my limit on it? And I set bars and doors. Whew. He said it. He said, Job, I did it all when I said. Matthew 4, when the tempter came and he said, and Jesus said, it is written. Jesus said, it is written. He's saying, Job, I put a band on the darkness when I said. I fixed the limit on it when I said. I set bars and doors on it when I said. And Job, this is what I said to it. I said, this far you may come. I said, Job, I told it, this far you may come, but no further. I told the darkness, this far you may come, but not further. And the text says, and hear, Job, and hear, Jasmine, and hear, Alexis, and hear, Tamika, the proud ways must stop. He said, where were you when I put a band on the darkness? Where were you when I fixed a limit on it? And I did it all when I said. Because I'm legally backed like that. And if I put my words in your mouth, Job, you legally backed like that, that I can tell a thing, Prophet Hall, this far you may come, but not further. And it says, hear the proud. At the point when I say it, that's where hear is. Hear the proud ways must stop where? When I say it. When I say it, I fix a limit on it. When I say it, I bring the elasticity of the band back up off me. Because I'm legally backed. And you legally backed. Ooh, he said I designed a band for. That means I designed a place where darkness can't progress past. It may seem like it's running you down, but when they say the name of the Lord, it's a strong tower. The only way I can run in is where I'm safe, because my safe place is the limit for the. He said I put a limit on it, Bishop. And see, the people of God, oh my God. Ooh, help us, Holy Ghost. The people of God, see, there are things we haven't fixed limits on. The enemy didn't leave until Jesus said, away from me. And he said, it is written. Then he said, away from me. And then he said this. He said, and you will worship, that means bow down. And you will serve, that means do what I say. Because I'm legally backed. Away from me. Bow down and do what I say. Because I'm legally backed. Tell your neighbor, I'm legally backed. When I speak this right here, I'm legally backed. Devil, get off me. And see, there are things that we haven't fixed a limit on, and it keeps progressing, and we keep regressing. Because see, when the children of Israel came out, guess what? Pharaoh let them go. What had them in bondage let them go for a while. And then they decided, I'm not done having a hold on you, so let's pursue. So that means what I done got free from still want to come wrap me up again. He said he wasn't ready to let him go yet. How many know the enemy not ready to let you go yet? He's not ready to stop pursuing you yet, but I fixed the limit on him. This far you may come, but not further. And he said, Bishop, he said, I set bars and doors on it. The boundaries, stopping points, restrictions, I set on it. I made a place where it can't progress past. See, and you know, the Lord, he loves to speak our language, because we talk about bars and doors. And see, it says that I fixed the limit. That means I securely fastened. That means I fixed it strong enough that it can't break through. I fixed it low enough that it can't get under. I fixed it high enough that it can't get over. I fixed it wide enough that it can't get around it. And here, the proud ways must stop. See, bars restrict. Cease. Doors close off access. Desist. He said, I set a cease on it, Prophet Hall, with the bars. And then I cut off his access. With the doors, when Moses, when he stretched his arm, they opened it up and they walked through. It said when Pharaoh and them they got about halfway through. But see, it wasn't for them. They weren't legally back. He didn't have a legal backing to keep the waters parted. So God said, he said he's progressing up on you. He's getting back up on you, but this far he may come. And he closed it back up. He said, the enemy is pursuing my people this far. He may come, but not further. And he shut the Red Sea back up. He cut off access, cease, and desist. He said, I fixed it. I securely fastened it. And it all happened. Ask me, when did it happen? Movement, ask me, when did it happen? He said, it all happened when I said. That's why we say, open up your. It happened when I said. The limit set as soon as I said. The progress stopped as soon as I said. The access was cut off as soon as I. Life and death are in the power of the. So if I want life in it, I can say it. If I needed to stop, I can say it. If I needed to cease, I can. If I needed to desist, I can. But see, the thing about cease and desist is normally in the form of a letter. Something written down with legal language. But see, I know that this thing that, and I know Dr. Collins know about it too, sometimes instead of writing, you can do what's called dictation. In other words, talk to text. How many know that'll suffice for your letter? Dictation will suffice for your letter. Out of the mouth I wrote my letter to. Out of my mouth I ordained the cease and desist for the. When I said, see, the point, tell your neighbor, the point of cease and desist is when you say it. Jesus said, away from me, Satan. He said, this far you may come. I'm done entertaining this. I'm done being affected by this. I'm done trying to work around this. I'm done conversing with the enemy. So I'm going to speak your limit. I'm going to speak your limit, devil. I'm going to speak your limit, demon. I'm going to speak your limit, witch. I'm going to speak your limit, warlock. Because I'm legally backed. Oh, bless your name. I'm fixing my limit now. Bow down and do what I say. This far you may see. You got to tell that to that addiction. You got to look that addiction in the face and say, this far you may come. This far you may come, but not further. You got to tell when that spirit of offense creep up on you that this far you may come. You got to tell the President Evangelist Haley that this far you may come, but not further. You got to tell your name, I'm fixing a limit on it. You got to fix a limit on everything that hinders your obedience. Everything that hinders your mind, everything that hinders your heart, everything that hinders your ministry, your walk with God, this far you may come. Anything that causes division, anything that hinders your peace and steals your joy, this far you may come, but not further. Whew. And see, when he was talking about the creation, that's how he originally did it. And I was going back to Genesis, and I'm trying to see, it said that the Spirit was hovering. The legal backing was already around. The legal backing was already around, and then he said, let there be. The Word and the Spirit teamed up and legally backed. And legally said, let's set a limit on this darkness. He said, let there be. Light is the limit. You'll get that when you get home. Light is the limit. Right outside the band, the darkness is the light. And light can shine in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overtake it. So he had the Spirit hovering, and then he spoke. And see, oh my God, Psalms 119 and 130 says, Lord, the unfolding of your words gives light. The unfolding of your, I have put my in your mouth. The unfolding of your word gives light, and light is the band for the. Somebody They got to put two and two together. And the unfolding of your word gives light. It gives understanding to the simple. That means that the darkness not only hear me, but it understands that I got legal backing. It understands that it got to back up off me. It understands that it got to loose his grip off of me. It understands that it got to back up off my child because I fixed the limit on it. The unfolding of your word gives light. When God called for the light, that was the limit of the darkness. And see, it said that the darkness cannot overtake it. It's not allowed to. It don't have the legal backing. That's why I say walk in the light. Because the light is the limit of the. So I'm in the light, Bishop. And the light in me mean I'm the limit for the. That makes me the limit. That's why you got to pass over my house, Bishop, because I'm in the light and the light in me, and I'm the limit. You got to tell my family is the limit. Division, my family is the limit. Confusion, my family is the limit. Yeah, no. Fix a limit on it. The light is the limit. Oh, my God. I got to fix a limit on it. See, that's why trouble can't last always. It's not allowed to. Because God said, I made a band for that. And I set a bar for that. And I set a door to shut trouble off. So trouble can't last always, because when my words unfold, it turned the light on. So the enemy can see me, hear me, worship me, obey me, do what I say, bow down, cease, and desist. Because the light is in me. And I am in the light, and the light is the limit. Ooh, is this good? It's good to me. Ooh, it's good to me. I preach it to me and not to anybody else. See, my God, when he parted the Red Sea, God put a limit on. He put a limit on the path that he set for you. If you're walking in your calling, then there's a path. Steps of a righteous man are on a path. And he set a limit on. Your path is off limits to the waves. As long as I'm following my path, as long as I'm staying in my place. See, when the disciples were in the boat with Jesus and the storm was going all kind of crazy, he said, peace be still. He put a limit on the storms of life. When Jesus walked out on the water and he said, Peter, come. When he said come, he set a limit on how high up the water. Remember I said he fixed the limit on how it can't go around. He fixed the limit, it can't go under and it can't come. Ooh, when he said come, when the word unfolded, the light and said, Peter, come, he fixed the limit on how high the water could come up because he know I got to walk on that. When Jesus stepped into Jordan, Bishop, and the water, what he was saying is the light is the limit and the light is here. Wow. So you got to, waves, you got to, my God. So it couldn't overtake him from any side. And it couldn't come from under. Because when the light stepped in the water, and here the proud waves must. See, it's dangerous when you don't stop it. And some of us still ain't stopped it. Some of us still stuck because we ain't stopped it. Some of us tired from running and fighting because we ain't stopped it. And see, when you don't stop it, you'll allow the enemy to relocate you. When you run from something, When you run from something, you start in one place. And when they're coming after you, you're moving out of the place where it's dangerous. Watch this. If you don't stop, and if you don't stop it, you'll start planning your day, your life, your ministry, your activities around what the enemy is doing. Out of fear of the enemy instead of the fear of the Lord. Prove what I'm saying. Gideon. When the Lord ran upon Gideon, Gideon was threshing wheat in a wine press. Gideon was operating in a place that he shouldn't be operating in out of fear that the enemy would take. Anytime you got more faith that the enemy will take it than you do that the Lord will take the enemy, you have been relocated. Nobody can see your good works in the wine press. You're supposed to thresh wheat in a high place. Your works are being hidden. Your ministry is being hidden because you have been relocated because you ain't fixed the limit on what the enemy is doing in your life. Oh, he was hiding his productivity. He was hiding his call. He was closing the doors of his ministry because he allowed the enemy to relocate him instead of fixing a limit. And see, this relocation, and we talk about the relocation. The relocation can be both physical and spiritual. What am I talking about? Sometimes just a physical relocation can be you leaving a ministry that you were designed to grow in, but you allow the fear that the enemy will take. See, he couldn't thresh a whole lot of wheat inside the wine press. He just had a little. Whenever you worried about the enemy taking this little bit of joy I got left, this little bit of peace I got left, this little bit of this right mind that I got left, you allow him to relocate you. And see, if you're relocated, then you can't hear the language that you need to put in your letter to cause the devil to cease. And when you can't hear the language that's got to go in your letter to make the devil. If Evangelist Hazley preached chapter 2, what you going to do? And she talked about 1 Samuel 3. When Samuel was laying down and he could hear a call. And he kept going to the wrong person. Hey, you called me. But it said every time that he laid down, it said he laid down in his place. It said that he laid down well in his place. Your place brings you in proximity to the language that's. If you allow the enemy to relocate you, you don't know the language that needs to go in your letter. And if your letter's not legally back, then you're going to continue to relocate. He said Samuel may have been young, but he was in his place. He may not have clarity on the call, but he was in his. You may still be fighting, but stay in your. You may be discouraged now, but stay in your. Because the language for your letter is coming. And he's going to send it to your place. But if you're not in your place, if you're not in your place, you miss the language for your letter. Ooh, but stay in your place, people of God. Stay in your place, because he got to download. When you download something on a computer, you got to specify the folder. My sermons go in my sermon folder. So the Lord is trying to send stuff to your cease and desist folder. But have you ever searched something and it said file not found? Oof. That's what you're doing when you relocate. You put the folder that is trying to download the language of your letter. You put it in a different place. And that's not your place, so you're missing your... Fix a limit on it. Fix a limit on it. And see, much worse than a physical relocation is if you allow the enemy to spiritually relocate you. Mental illness is... Gender confusion is... Pride is... Reprobate mind is... Causing division when the law, the language says unity, commands the blessing is spiritual. Causing turmoil and strife and sowing seeds of discord when the language in your letter says blessed are the peacemakers is. Don't let the enemy see. The enemy not going to dictate my movement. He's not going to send me to the wine press. You got to fix a limit on everything that limits your faith. On everything that limits your obedience. On everything that limits unity. On everything that limits peace and joy. You got to fix a limit on it or you're going to relocate when... Anything. See, because if they can limit all that stuff, he can stop your ticket to heaven. If he can limit your ministry, if he can limit you from hearing the call on your life, and you miss some of the instructions that you were supposed, some of the steps that you were supposed to follow, and you get, and he said, I sent you the language. I sent you the verbiage for your life. For I know I sent you the plan. I put in your mouth, but you relocated. Because you didn't fix a limit on what I gave you the power to fix a limit on. See, the enemy not going to dictate my movement. He's not going to dictate my praise. I'm not going to praise around him. I'm not going to minister around him. He's not going to determine the places that I go. He's not going to determine when I open my mouth because now that I got a revelation to go with my information. Now I start the application. When I start the application, his word does the activation. After the activation, he elevates me. That's a graduation. Fix my limit on it. That's the biggest thing the enemy is fighting for you. He don't care about the information if he can stop your revelation. The language of your letter is a revelation of the law. That's what he wants to do is stop you from getting a revelation. Because if he don't reveal it to you and you don't apply it, which means you don't say it, the enemy don't stop it. If you don't say stop, he don't. He may let you go once, but Pharaoh still. And it said, when I said, this far you may come. You caused enough damage in my life. You've hindered my walk enough. You've tormented my mind enough. You divided my family enough. This far you may come, but not further. And then it said, the word said, and here. Right here where I say it. Right here where I say away from me. Right here where I say this far you may come, but not further. See, here is a point of reference. You speaking is the place where revelation and reference meet. Here, the proud ways must stop. Here, depression got to let my mind go. Here, confusion got to get out of my house. Here, division got to get out of my ministry. Here, disobedience got to get out of my heart. Here, unforgiveness got to get out of my heart, because this far you may come, but no further. And see, it says that two words say it must stop. Say it again, it must stop. Y'all got to get that. See, must is to be required immediately. Must is to be required immediately. The Bible uses the term a lot of times straight away, suddenly, without delay, no wait in line, never pending. It is required, because I got legal backing, it's required immediately. And to stop is to close up or block off. When I said it, it's required immediately to close up. When I said it's required immediately to block off. It must stop. It don't have a choice but to stop. It's required. When I speak the language of my letter, it's required immediately to close up and block off. Because the Lord said, I set bars and doors on it. I've required this now that the door is closed to it. The access to me is cut off. The access to me is closed up. The access to you is blocked off. The access to your family is closed up. The access to your marriage is blocked off. The access to your heart is closed up. Because it said, and here they must stop. See, the enemy has been distracting you from getting the revelation. See, the revelation is that it must stop. See, that's why Gideon was in the wine press, because he hadn't received the revelation yet that the enemy can't take it, because it must stop when Because see, once you get a revelation, no devil in hell can stop your application. And no activation, no devil in hell, once you activate and apply, can stop the word activating. Activation. And then graduation. Because when I speak, I'm legally backed that you may come this far. Y'all got to get this here. How far is too far? How far is too far? Jesus didn't let the enemy get no ground. He got no ground. He said, and he said. It is written, the point of reference is here is when I say the devil, as soon as he said something, so he didn't entertain it. He didn't get tripped up. He didn't get stuck. He didn't get wrapped up. Because he messed around and got a revelation that I'm legally backed. As long as I'm speaking this word, then my word, because every hindering spirit knows. Jesus, that knows. When I speak Jesus, it knows. When you speak Jesus, it knows. When it knows, it responds. When it responds, it stops. When it stops, you close it up. When it stops, you block it off. Bishop, the enemy messed around and let me get a revelation. He didn't mind me having the information, but he messed around and he done messed up now because he done messed around and let the movement get a revelation that it must stop. That the pursuit must stop. That the wrap up, the tie up, the chain up, the stronghold must stop. It don't have any choice. See, the revelation, the cease and desist is that it must stop. When I speak it, it must stop. Now, Bishop, see, now that I got the revelation, Bishop, when temptation try to hit my marriage, Bishop, when temptation try to hit my marriage, and it comes up to the door of my life, Bishop, I say, this far. You must come. You could come this far, but I got to close it up now. I done got a revelation that I can close it up now. I got a revelation that I can block it off. So now when depression hit my mind, when it's knocking at the door of my mind, I say, depression, check this out. This far you may come. But here, at the point of me closing off your access, the proud ways. But I just wish somebody would get the revelation that you got the power to cut it off. You got the power to close it up. You got the power to cut off access. When you speak, it stops. I just wish somebody would get that. Somebody that's tired of depression, hitting their mind, say, this far depression, you may come, but not further. You're tired of turmoil in your marriage. So I just want somebody to tell turmoil, this far, you may come. Whatever your this far is, this far you may come, but not further, because I fixed my limit on it. I set a bar on it today. I messed around and got it in sync with the movement. I hooked up with the movement, and I went down and got a revelation for my information. And I know that I don't have to entertain it anymore. Away from me, Satan. Close it up. Block it off. Close it up. Block it off. Tell your neighbor, close it up. It's the last day is open because I'm closing it up today. Today is my here. Today is my point of reference. Not another day, not tonight, not tomorrow, not next week. I'm cutting this access off today. And here, at the point when I speak, I don't care how long it's been after you. I don't care how big it is, how wide it is, how strong it is. This far. Ooh. Am I the only one tired of being? Am I the only one closing access off today? Am I the only one that's cutting stuff off and closing stuff? Because I'm legally backed. And not a devil in hell. Not a witch, not a warlock, not a person. Nothing can progress past my here. When I decided something, I said something. You don't speak unless you make a decision to open your mouth. Speaking is me making a decision. Or I made a decision and then I opened my mouth. I made a decision that I'm tired of it on my back, so I said, this far. I made a decision that I'm tired of it in my head, so I said, this far. You may come. I made a decision that I'm tired of it in my marriage, so I said, this far. I made a decision that I'm tired of it in my ministry, so I said, this far. I made a decision that I'm tired of it in my witness, and I said, this far. I made a decision. And here, somebody shout here. Here, the proud ways must stop. Here, the proud ways must stop. Here, the proud ways must stop. Here, defeat must stop. Here, the doors of failure have been. Right here, the doors of failure have been. Right here, the doors of depression have been. Right in here. I block it off in the name of Jesus. I close it up in the name of Jesus. When generational curses decide it's going to roll up on my generation, decide it's going to hit my family, the stuff that hindered my daddy think it's going to hit me in my marriage, this far. I made a decision based off my revelation and my information. And I close it up so I close it up for elevation and graduation because I applied not just the information, but the revelation that it's a limit on the darkness. And I'm the limit. And I'm legally backed. And now the devil in hell can keep going when I say stop. Because he put his words in my mouth. And they said, Jesus, I know. Paul, I know. Pastor Cooley, I know. Bishop, I know. Lady Collins, I know. The movement, I know. That when they speak, they can put me on cease and desist If you believe the word of the Lord, oh my God. Before you leave this place today, I need you to come by this door. Whatever you need to cut off the access to today, before you leave, you need to close that door. You're going to close this door in faith that God going to finish what you started in faith. Because you got legal backing to close it. The devil can't keep his foot in it. The devil can't keep his arm and keep it open because you got legal backing to close it. I'm legally back to close it. I can shut it off because I'm legally back to close it. This legally back, this language in my letter legally backs me to close it. So it can't touch my mind. It can't touch my heart. It can't touch my marriage. It can't touch my ministry. It can't touch my finances because I'm legally back to close it. Before you leave here today, whatever doors you need to close, whatever things you need access cut off to, whatever things you need closed up and blocked off and shut off, you need to come close the door. Tell your neighbor today, the door closed. Access to me is cut off because I'm legally backed. Bless you.